So I guess I'll just rattle off the entire stack from the get-go here. And then we'll go into each ingredient and I'll explain why I've put that in my personal stack. So number 1, vitamin D. Number 2 being boron. Zinc is in there. Then we look at Shilajit. I've done a fair bit of content on that recently, and I strongly advise using that on a regular basis. Obviously, if you can source good quality Shilajit, that is. Tribulus, again, a good quality source of Tribulus. I've noticed, quite a bit of variation in the effects I get from certain brands. Fenugreek, Bulbine natalensis, D-aspartic acid, and then Tongap, which I will bring in and out. So I'll explain that at the end. I don't necessarily run that every day. So I guess kicking it off, vitamin D. Now, low levels of vitamin D can inhibit testosterone production, but there's just so many other benefits to vitamin D that it makes it a bit of a no-brainer to have in anyone's, stack, vitamin stack, health stack, longevity stack, whatever you want to call it. And I aim for about 5,000 IUs per day. Seems to be a good, safe figure to go for to get an effect, but also not to overdose vitamin D, because you can actually do that. There is such a thing, but you'd have to be running pretty high doses for a long time. And so I think the 5,000 IUs is a good sweet spot. Now, there's been a year-long study on this showing significant increases in testosterone over placebo. So it's definitely known to work on that pathway, but obviously you're going to get bone density improvements, immunity health benefits, just a whole range of things that make vitamin D worthwhile supplementing with. So it's in there as the base. And then we move down to boron. Now, boron has been shown to raise free testosterone at doses of 3 milligrams twice per day, so 6 milligrams a day, and also at 10 milligrams a day. Fairly significant improvements as well. We're looking at things like 25% increases in free testosterone in certain studies. There is a study using 2.5 milligrams a day, so much lower. That didn't show much. That was in bodybuilders though. So, I don't really know about the particular people that they were running that study on. There could be a lot of factors. The word bodybuilders makes me wonder. There could be some exogenous effects, but suffice to say, you're looking for at least 6 milligrams a day to get the benefits from boron based on the studies. So that's in there. Free testosterone is huge for me. That's something I'm always chasing. And then zinc. Zinc would be a no-brainer. It looks like 30 milligrams a day is the sweet spot dose, just from studies that have shown improvements with people taking that versus placebo. Your body can't store zinc, so you need to take it in from the diet. So if your diet is low, supplementing with it will obviously help prevent that bottleneck from forming. If there's enough in your diet, great, but that's hard to monitor. So taking around 30 milligrams a day is just a great way to make sure that this isn't something that's inhibiting your testosterone production. And also, it's a really good vitamin to be taking for all kinds of health benefits. Then next we get to the Shilajit. So obviously I like to take that all the time. I see it as a great anti-aging supplement as well as a testosterone boosting supplement. We've seen some really good increases in 90-day studies, around the 23% mark, and a similar percentage increase in free testosterone. I think that's huge. All kinds of antioxidant benefits. This is huge for me as well, I think, and you'll see that with a lot of these herbs. They're raising levels of antioxidants in the body. Tribulus does it. Fenugreek does it, and that's why they're part of my base testosterone stack that I take daily, because these kind of benefits are really nice knock-on benefits where I know I'm not robbing Peter to pay Paul by taking these herbs. I'm actually getting benefits on top of benefits, so I'm improving my testosterone profile, but I'm also improving my lifespan potentially by raising levels of antioxidants to help scavenge free radicals and help my liver function correctly and so on. So Shilajit's in there for that very reason. And then, of course, the elastin benefits, the collagen production benefits, the brain health benefits, and the heart and vascular health benefits just all compound for me and just make it an absolute no-brainer to have in the stack. And it's probably the foundation of the pyramid of my stack after those vitamins. Shilajit is in there. Again, provided you can get a decent quality resin or powder form that's standardized to a decent amount of the fulvic acid content. I say run it. And 250 milligrams twice a day seems to be a really good dose to be running. There's a great study that shows those testosterone benefits at that dosing after 90 days. Then we move on to Tribulus. Now, although there's no human studies showing testosterone increases, what I like about this herb is its potential to sensitize us to our own testosterone production, and also it seems to demonstrate a release of nitric oxide in the corpus cavernosum tissue, right in the penis where you want it. And there's 2 human studies showing erection improvements and 4 human studies showing improvements in libido. So we do know it's a good aphrodisiac. There is lots of good studied evidence for antioxidant increases, organ protective aspects to the herb, and it's got a history of traditional use as an aphrodisiac. And what's also interesting is that protodiacin content, which is thought to be one of the active ingredients in there, and that's why I generally recommend the herbs of gold, Tribulus, because it seems to have a decent protodiacin component to it. That is basically it's a saponin responsible for perceived increases in sensitivity to androgenic hormones in the body. And then that's been shown in rodent studies, and it's likely to carry over to humans, but it's just not significant enough to show an actual rise in testosterone. But that's okay, because the Tribulus is working in synergy in this stack with the other herbs and vitamins that are raising testosterone levels or increasing the free testosterone anyway. So for that reason, I love it in the stack, and I've always got it in there. Really enjoy that herb, and it seems to give me a better mood, which I really enjoy as well. And then we've got Fenugreek. So Fenugreek is a really safe herb. It's actually relatively well studied. It doesn't have as many human studies as something like Tongat Ali, which is probably the best studied testosterone boosting herb in I guess the entire supplement industry right now, but it's got a decent amount that actually show increases in testosterone, and it looks like doses between 300 milligrams to 600 milligrams seem to be effective. There's a meta-analysis of 4 clinical trials that show increases in serum testosterone, and there is a really good 8-week study showing that 300 milligram doses resulted in 50% higher free testosterone against placebo. So Fenugreek seems to have an affinity for freeing up testosterone, increasing free testosterone. It's been thought that this could be via it reducing aromatase and 5-alpha reductase activity, thereby increasing total testosterone levels by blocking its conversion to estrogen and DHT, but it could also just be that it's freeing up bound tests from SHBG. More studies are definitely needed, but again, a very traditional herb that's been around for a long time, that has a lot of anecdotal evidence for benefits in testosterone and libido. And what I also like about it is, once again, we've got these other benefits that come in, particularly for anti-aging. And one of them with Fenugreek is it seems to improve cholesterol lipid profiles. It seems to reduce fat mass and increase lean muscle mass, similar to what Tongat can do. And then on top of that, it seems to really improve insulin sensitivity. So it's got a great way of getting blood sugar back under control, and that's why I see it as such a great herb to have in my daily stack, because not only am I looking at potential testosterone boosting benefits, freeing up more of my bound tests, getting me my free testosterone higher, but it's also improving my insulin sensitivity, which is a huge thing as we age, and it's a big reason why it's just a bit harder to keep that body fat off as you pass your 40s. And for that reason, Fenugreek's in my stack, and I really hope to see more human studies on it in the future. And then we move down to Bulbine. Now, Bulbine natalensis is probably one of the least studied herbs in this mix, and it's probably the only one that may have some slight question marks around its safety for long-term use or continued use, simply because in rodent studies we saw massive testosterone increases, 350% increases, but we also saw increases in negative biomarkers associated with running high test, essentially. Renal and liver values were elevated in a negative way, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel. First of all, you're not going to get a 350% increase if you're a human. But they have done one study for safety in humans. So this is the only human study so far. And unfortunately, they didn't test for testosterone levels in the study. They just tested for the safety profile. And what they did is they ran it for 28 days of use. This was using a prolensis extract, which is like a trademarked Bulbine natalensis extract that I don't see around anymore, but it's likely to have been about a 10-to-1 water extract. And it showed no abnormal renal and liver values after 28 days of use in men. So this was in humans. We didn't see any negative markers, no negative biomarkers whatsoever after 28 days of use. So it's likely that in humans, not only is the testosterone boost a little more reasonable, which is fine. I personally wouldn't want a 350% increase. It's likely to get difficult to manage. It'd start to mess with feedback loops, raise estrogen. Things could sort of get a bit out of whack if you're going that high. But it's also unlikely to cause any of the negative side effects. But it's just something to be aware of with Bulbine, as it's not as well studied as some of these other herbs in humans. It does have a long history of use in South Africa though, so there's a traditional history with it there, which always points me in the right direction. I feel like long periods of traditional use are sometimes a better indicator of a herb's effectiveness than almost anything else, but it's just the safety profile that it's nice to see sometimes with Western science stepping in and giving us something to make sure that we know taking it long term is safe and not going to cause any kind of negative side effects. So Bulbine looks to be safe in humans. We do have a study showing that. It certainly does seem to increase my libido though. And as much as we don't have a testosterone study in humans, we do have a self-reported in-house blood work reference from the company that was distributing it, one of the varieties of Bulbine natalensis called Anatest. And they suggest that after 2 weeks, they were seeing a 35% increase in testosterone levels. Now, I can say from using this herb, the reason it's in my stack is it is effective. I don't get angry on it or have any mood disturbances, but my libido's up. My gonads are definitely bigger. It makes your balls larger, and that was shown in the rodent study. Increases the cholesterol content, therefore potentially the testosterone manufacturing ability of the gonads. This could be one of the many different ways that it's functioning in the body. And it also seems to greatly increase sperm volume. I noticed that. It's very noticeable, and there are some links to that in the studies as well, whereby it should increase sperm quality and potentially quantity, and also ability for the sperm to flow better in the balls by raising something called, I believe it's salicylic acid in the gonads. So it's a really good libido herb. It's a really good testosterone boosting herb. So we're looking at maybe 35%, Again, this would be raising you, if you're low, back up to closer to your higher levels. This wouldn't be the case where it's getting you, at your absolute peak testosterone and then adding 35% to that. I doubt it. I'd say it's raising you back up. But seeing increases like that is a welcome benefit. And when you stack all these together, you really start to see quite a nice libido and mood increase on a daily basis. And then last but not least, we have D-aspartic acid. Now, this is another one of those supplements that seems to have the majority of its benefits in people that are low in testosterone or a bit older. In younger men, it doesn't seem to have much effect because it's working on the gonadal signaling. So it's working on the HPGA. It basically triggers the hypothalamus to produce more luteinizing hormone, which then tells the balls to make more testosterone. And in young men, that's not really a bottleneck, but as we get older, that signaling seems to get weaker. And so there's quite a few studies here where men from 27 to 43, so 27 years old up, are benefiting. We're seeing anything from a 20% to a 60% rise in testosterone levels. Again, that's just getting that signaling going and getting people back up to their higher baseline, closer to their peak. I wouldn't say it's pushing you past it. This seems to be happening at doses of 2.66 grams per day to 3.2 grams per day. And the sweet spot seems to be very similar to Shilajit at the 90-day mark. So taking it consistently for a long period of time seems to be where you'll get the most benefit. But we are seeing increases in as little as 12 days in some studies as well. Dose-wise, it doesn't seem like you need to go any higher than the 3.2 grams per day. I'd even suggest you can maybe go a little bit lower than the 2.66. But these are just the studied doses that have been shown to be effective at raising testosterone, particularly, again, as I said before, when it's low. But running higher doses doesn't seem to have any further benefit. They've done a few studies on 6 grams, and one saw an actual decrease in testosterone, another saw no change. So keep it around the 2 to 3 gram mark, and run it if you're 30 years or older would be my recommendation, or if you happen to know that your testosterone is low. But we're seeing some great benefits around sperm production as well, and fertility. There's a great study on fertility with the 90-day period, large group from 27 to 43 years of age, and these guys were all struggling. Essentially, they were in a group of people that were having trouble getting partners pregnant, and a lot of them started to get their partners pregnant during the study. It was mostly aimed at discovering whether or not D-aspartic acid increased fertility, but it did test for testosterone levels to make sure that no biomarkers were getting too out of whack, and that's where we saw significant increases in testosterone and also in sperm motility and production. So it's in my stack. I'm 43 now. I see it as a good time to be bringing in things that increase the signaling of LH to the gonads. And so for that reason, it's in my daily stack. I take it at night, in with my greens and sleep formula, and in a powder form from Switch Nutrition. And I aim for that 3 gram dose. So that's my base stack. Now, I will bring in Tongat in and out as required. Obviously, that's one of the few herbs that's been shown to have testosterone boosting benefits in young men, in older men. It's had the most significant increases in low testosterone out of any herb that I've probably listed. We're seeing crazy things like 600% increases. That's in someone that was very low. So you got to remember, 600% increase sounds like a lot, but if someone's got 0 testosterone, it's probably just getting them closer to where they should be. But it just proves that Tongat has the ability to raise the dead in terms of if your testosterone production is just really flat, but you still got a pair of balls left and all the equipment to get the signaling going. Well, if that's the case, then Tongat's going to bring you back. So if you've got the equipment, it'll revive it. But the reason I don't take it daily is it's so effective that it makes me cranky. And so once it's got me back to where I need to be and that mood disturbance starts to take effect, I pull it back out of the stack. I only use it as that kind of jet booster to get me back up into orbit if I've really dropped off for some reason. Stress, some experiment gone wrong in all of my herb and supplement experimentation, or otherwise. So that's why it's not part of the daily stack, but I would consider it a herb worth having in the daily stack if it didn't have those side effects that make me irritable. And then that rounds out my daily stack. Now, there are a bunch of other herbs that I'll go through in the future, but this forms my base recommended daily regime that I would be happy to suggest to anyone over 30, and to be honest, to most people under 30 as well. Probably the only herb or supplement rather that I'd pull out is the D-aspartic acid until you're over 30, because it doesn't seem to have much benefit in men around 21 years of age. But everything else in there I would consider to be effective to run even at a younger age, just to make sure you're at your optimal. But once you hit 30, or I guess in these studies 27 up, that's the stack I'd be suggesting. Now, up to you if you want to run the Bulbine. It's probably a little bit low in human studies to really be considered completely safe. I think it is, though, and there is that one study kind of clearing it. And I like to use it. I love the effects. It's one of my favorite herbs, so I just can't discount it. But if you want, remove that, but run the rest. Run vitamin D, run boron, run some zinc. Get on some good quality Shilajit, some Tribulus, some Fenugreek, and see the benefits there. If you want to run Bulbine like me, I think you'll be glad you did. I'm sure you'll notice the two things I pointed out, the larger balls and the bigger loads, but also a really nice boost in your confidence and your feeling of libido and, testosterone level kind of, perceived levels, without any sort of irritability whatsoever. And I suggest getting the D-aspartic acid in there too. It's safe, it's effective, it's easy to pick up, it's readily available. and keep the Tongat in the cupboard for when you need it. So hopefully that's helpful. That's a rundown of my stack and why I like to run it. I will bring in other herbs to talk about in the near future, things like Butea superba, Cistanche, Spilanthes, Anacyclius, Maca. I want to talk about some erection stacks, horny goatweed, black ginger, pomegranate, arginine, Eriosema. So there's lots of cool things on the horizon, but this is just me covering off, I guess, in my little testosterone series that I've been doing, the base stack that I recommend to get in there to have you feeling your best. And I honestly think if you run this stack, you'll be pretty glad you did. So that's it from me. If you've got any questions, reach out, comment below, DM, hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, wherever you're seeing this, YouTube. And if you want to shop with us to get some of these products, Newtown Supplement Store, there'll be links in all the bios and whatnot. We're happy to help you out. Happy for you to get it somewhere. Happy to reach out to me to get it, or happy for you to just get my advice on whether or not a supplement you're about to buy looks worthwhile. So I would love to hear from you guys. Well, that's it from me. Peace, love, and harmony. Until next time.